Ever since I was a child, I've had strange dreams. More specifically, recurring nightmares. Even as a child, I was an avid dreamer, held back only by the boundless expanse of my imagination. I've long had the ability to lucid dream, and have even felt the effects of sleep paralysis. As a child, I never quite understood that I could easily do things adults strive to do, and as an adult, I wish I couldn't. My earliest memory of my recurring nightmare is from when I was around 4 to 5 years old. Given how long ago that was, you'll forgive me for not remembering much preceding or superseding that night, but the dream is as avid and clear as yesterday. My childhood home was close to a park. It was rather large with multiple playgrounds, a memorial, and even a small topiary area my childish mind treated as a maze. My memories of that place were nothing but fond, if not fleeting, until that night. I was in the park just outside the maze. The sky was dark and cloudy. The ambience was chilling. It seemed as though all saturation had been drained from the world, the hedges before me barely distinguishable from the sky. I knew I had to go into that maze, even though everything within me screamed for me to wake up or leave. I made timid steps into the maze, turning to look back at the exit. I saw it had been replaced by more of the labyrinthian topiary surrounding me. I stood there, petrified. I looked around me. The maze seemed to be constantly warping as though it were alive. I looked toward a junction and began to walk, my legs barely carrying me. I tried to call for help, but I couldn't talk. My throat swelled with each attempt, the feeling similar to swallowing back tears. I looked left at a junction and I saw it in the distance. 4 gigantic, spindly legs protruded from the maze, amassing to a flat tick-like body. It moved its legs silently and slowly as it prowled across the maze. I stood, entranced by the horror before me. I broke my gaze and turned to run. My limbs burned as I tried to run, barely moving at a crawl. My chest and heart dropped as I opened my eyes and saw my bedroom. I was panting slightly, my heart racing. A warm wetness indicated my dream had truly scared the piss out of me. I didn't dream about it again for another couple years. It was Christmas Eve this time around, and I was understandably excited, which made sleeping just a little hard. Now, those of you who actively lucid dream know that having an active mind but an inactive body can lead to lucid dreaming quite consistently. So it won't surprise you that I was in full control while I dreamed that I was in my bed, in my bedroom dark, with snow drifting past my window. Normally, lucid dreams are enjoyable, but not this time. The world was once again near grayscale. I stood from my bed and walked to my window. I could see the neighborhood standing before me, a landscape of slate and snow. I decided to check on my dad. I exited my bedroom and walked across the landing to my dad's bedroom. Opening the door yielded no response, so I entered. His bed was empty. I walked to his window and opened the curtains. In the streets across, 4 giant black pylons rose out, contrasting the mingled grays. I was frozen in horror as one of the extremities moved. It was walking toward our house. I couldn't see its body because of the size of the window and how damn tall the thing was. The bedrooms of our house were on the 2nd story, so this put the thing at least 6 stories tall, triple the height of our house. I ran downstairs, making a dash for the back door. I opened it and made my way to the garden, looking in petrified awe at its form as it made its way toward me. Now I could see it face on. It had arachnoid eyes. They glowed a faint crimson, contrasting the grayscale background. It didn't seem to have seen me. I dashed out of our back garden's gate and into an alley. I ran as fast as my legs could carry me away from the house. Everything began to blur slightly as I ran. I blinked and I stopped. I was back in my room. Everything was dark. I felt heavy. My chest seemed as though a weight were on it. I could see my window from my bed, and there, I saw that monstrosity lower its body to the window and stare in with its hellish red eyes. I tried to move, but I couldn't. My heart was practically escaping my chest as I screwed my eyes shut, refusing to look at the demon outside my window, hoping that it would go away if I didn't look at it. My thoughts began to drift, as does my recollection of dreams after. I would come to understand that what I experienced were wake-induced lucid dreaming and resultant sleep paralysis. As I grew older, I'd occasionally see the creature in my dreams. It'd almost be very far off in the distance, but occasionally, I'd be close to it. It seemed that looking at it from afar or being close caused the desaturation. This had a strange coincidence with my life at the time. A close family member died when I was 11. Around this time, I'd see the creature much more and have repeat nightmares of seeing my stepdad, who sadly passed from cancer, walking toward it only for it to look down at him. I'd always wake up at that point. The scenario and situation always changed in my dreams, but the creature was a relative consistency. As I breached my teen years, I began to suffer with what would eventually be diagnosed as depression. During this time, I'd come to terms with the creature. I even named it the Dreamwalker. I'd see it almost nightly, at varying distances. One night, I was lucid. Curiosity took over fear as I realized the classroom I was in was desaturated. The Dreamwalker was here. I left the room and began to search around the school for it. Corridors entwined like some kind of shifting labyrinth. As I was wandering through the millionth iteration of the English faculty, I saw one of the doors held a red tinge. I'd never seen this in a dream with the Dreamwalker before. I opened it, the door leading to a mid-sized classroom that was my English room. My teacher's desk sat across the room, a book open upon it. I approached it and began to read it. As I read, the words kept changing themselves and my head ached. I drew my eyes away in time to see the black pylon just outside the door. I was trapped. I closed my eyes and curled up, willing myself to wake. I could see red through my eyelids. My body grew hot, and then it was over. I opened my eyes, drenched with sweat, in my bed. That was the last time I went looking for the Dreamwalker. My mental state began to pick up along with my grades as I shifted my concentration away from my night terrors and toward my waking dreams. Fast forward a few years, I was in my late teens and held down a job at a fast food chain in my town. I won't go into great detail, but there was a small dining space and a counter with an open kitchen behind. The exterior walls of the dining area all had glass. The restaurant itself was situated in the relative middle of nowhere along the main road to and from my town. At this time, there had been a heavy snowfall and I'd only managed to get in one of my scheduled shifts, and the place was eerily quiet. Barely any staff or customers all day and into the night. The eerie feeling that day returned the Dreamwalker to me. I woke to stand in the dining area. No one else was there. A blizzard clouded the outside world, mere feet visible from the windows. Everything was as monotone and gray as before. I immediately knew what was going on. I walked to the staff door, but the keypad wasn't there. The door handle was even gone. I turned for the front doors, trying them to no avail. Then a spindly black leg landed silently in the snow, just visible through the blizzard. Then another. I panicked. I looked back to the staff door, trying to run, but once again, barely moving at all. After what seemed like a heart-wrenching eternity, I reached it. It was as barren as before. I knew that unless I escaped the Dreamwalker would take me. What that meant, I was entirely unsure, but I knew it wasn't a good thing and didn't want to wait around to find out specifics. I remembered the red door from my last encounter and closed my eyes, telling myself when I opened them, the door before me would be the same. Sure enough, it stood before me, carrying that same red hue. I entered, seeing a plain concrete room. My stepdad was standing opposite of me, his face expressionless, He spoke, but no sound escaped. Despite that, I knew what he said. The Dreamwalker took me. Moving forward to my 20s, I had very few encounters with the Dreamwalker, until a very fateful day. I was driving home late at night after dropping my friends home from the pub. I was always the designated driver as alcohol quickly took a grip on me. As I was driving along country lanes, I saw a light coming from a junction just ahead of me, then the front end of a 4x4. I slammed my brakes trying to stop in time, but to no avail. Everything went dark. I woke up in the driver's seat of my crashed car. Everything was gray. To my right was the front end of the 4x4, embedded in the driver's side door. Ahead was nothing but country lanes and fog. But to the left, there stood an unfamiliar man. He was looking up at a black mass propped up by 4 legs, the Dreamwalker. He stared into its eyes as it lowered itself to his height, its great legs bending outwards. As it stared at him, black tendrils began to expand from just under its eyes, enveloping him. Within seconds, the man was gone, the black mass engulfing him. The Dreamwalker turned its gaze to me. I felt my heart stop. Literally, I knew in that moment that I was dead. It extended itself back up, walking slightly forwards before bringing itself slowly down to my level. Its eyes seemed to stare into my very soul. I saw tendrils begin to approach me. One wrapped itself around my left arm, another approaching. The tendril felt icy, like death itself. I woke with a jolt on the asphalt of the concrete road. My vision was blurry as I looked at the EMTs. A defibrillator was on my chest. It turns out I had survived the crash due to a piece of bodywork that had impaled my right side, managing to block most of the bleeding. This led to internal clots, but thankfully saved my life. Another driver found me and the other driver called an ambulance. I was beginning to bleed out when they found me. Before they could completely pull me out, I went into cardiac arrest. I momentarily died in that car. Thankfully, they managed to bring me back, leaving me with permanent scarring, but also my life. The other man died after windshield canoeing some way down the road. Apparently, he hadn't been wearing his seatbelt. The strangest part about all of this is the damage to my left arm. A strip around its circumference had its nerve endings damaged, meaning I couldn't feel in that area, the same area that the tendril had touched. Every now and then, that area will get a strange chill and the Dreamwalker will flash into my head. I'm still not sure what the Dreamwalker is, whether it's something my child mind created to deal with fears and loss. Whatever it is, it doesn't fit right into any category for mental illness or trauma. The dream started before I'd had anything trauma-causing happen to me, and I was a happy child. I've theorized about it a lot. Whenever I think about it, all I can think of is death. So perhaps that's what it is. Maybe someone else has had dreams like this, or has seen the Dreamwalker. I hope by making this post I can find someone else who has seen the Dreamwalker, although I kind of hope I'm the only one and I'm just crazy. I'll be waiting anxiously for a reply, mostly because I'm too afraid to sleep with recalling the Dreamwalker. Looks like I'm in for a night of no sleep.